This is a fairly self-serving tip of the week, and it involves doing mirrored or double lifted increases on the purl side and on the knit side, or purl-wise and knit-wise. The reason why is I'm doing a pair of knee-highs where you need to increase for the calf, and this is a technique that you use. You also see this sometimes in Elizabeth Lavold's Viking patterns, where you're going to be starting some columns of knit stitches for the cables in the middle of purls. And the first thing I'm going to do is I want to increase 2 purl stitches in this column where I have 2 purl stitches, so I'll have a total of 4. And I'm going to work over there to where I want to be, and sorry, I'm going to work a lifted increase, and I'm going to work one on the left side because I want my 2 new stitches to be between these. Now, just like any lifted increase, what you want to do is you're going to be using, if I want it on the right side, I'm going to be using the head of the stitch below, the purl bump, in order to make my stitch, only I'm going to be working it purl-wise. If it's on the right side, I work that, and then I work the stitch. If it's on the left side, I have to work the stitch and then use this loop. So my first one, because I want them in between, is going to be on the left, and I'm going to work it. And now this is the loop below, and don't worry that that's a little stretched out. And I work my stitch. So now I have 2 purl stitches, and I want my lifted increase, as I said, on either side of the 2 stitches, so in between those 2 stitches. So I'm going to work it on the right side. These are a little tougher to work when you're purling. Sometimes you kind of have to use your fingers to hold them in place. And there, now I have 4 purl stitches. And I'm going to work another row. Now what I'm going to do next, because I actually want a column of two columns of knit stitches there, is I'm going to work a couple of rows, and then I'm going to add those knit stitches. And with lifted increases, if you want them to be worked above a purl stitch, you simply work them purl-wise. Now if you notice, these are my lifted increases on the knit side, and if I really wanted to, if I'm having trouble working them on the purl side, I can work them on the knit side and just flip them over. Because I'm working stockings in the round, that's not a possibility for me, and it's easier for me to do it on the purl rows anyway, then I can count them. So it looks a little bunchy there, but you know, I have increased, and it is mirrored. Now for purl stitches, it's not so important they be mirrored. A purl stitch is a purl stitch. But for knit stitches where you have legs of the stitch, it is important that they be mirrored. It's going to look a lot better if I work one on the left and one on the right. And I'm just going to work 2 more rows. Here's my right side row. And you can see the further I get away from those increases, the better it looks. And then I'm going to work my lifted increases. And these are actually mirrored. If you look at this on the right side, notice that it is mirrored. I have these 2 legs of the stitches here, the new stitches coming on either side. It's a nice look. Now, as I said before, I've worked some Elizabeth Lavold patterns where she has those Viking cable patterns, and you are all of a sudden needing to create a knit column of stitches, 2 columns, in order to work the cable. And it's a variant of that technique that she does. She has you use lifted increases to do it until you get 2 or 4 stitches, usually 4. All right, now I'm at the place where I want to start working my column of knit stitches, and I'm going to work over, and I'm going to want to have I'm going to work my knit stitches between these 2 guys so that I have 2 purls on one side and 2 purls on the other. So when I get to the point, I'm going to work this one, and I'm going to want to have my knit stitch on the left side of this stitch. So I have to work it first, and I'm going to lift up that purl bump and I'm going to knit into it if I can. Okay, there, hold on. Yeah, I'm going to knit into it. Now I want to have my next knit stitch on this side of that purl stitch, so I'm going to knit into this purl loop, work a purl stitch, and merrily work to the end. And I'll work one more row and then I'll shut the video down. And as I said, this is a technique that I'm using on my knee highs in order to create some additional stitches for the calf shaping. Okay, there's my 2 knit stitches that I added. And here we go. We'll look at this now. And you can see that I've got my 2 knit stitches here, and they look pretty nice. They seem to be coming out of nowhere. And so I've added, my pattern is still maintained. I've got purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. And I've added another column of stitches.